started moving on into night-timers in the late 80s, around 88. So we started doing late 87, 88. Problem was that we couldn't get the clubs on the night, and the clubs we were getting, they weren't really good for concerts. And we wanted to put on the Bhangra bands on the stage. And the only club that was available for us, which was the biggest club in the UK at the time, Super Club Dome. So we got John Bunce at the time, and we said, well, John, we want to do some Bhangra gigs. And with a bit of influence from First Leisure, because we were already promoting at Pagoda Park in Birmingham and a couple of clubs in Leicester, we got the Dome. We done a gig there, it was brilliant. The only thing was, we were students. So we have limited finance, so we had to juggle around the money with the bands and stuff and wherever to get it all kicking. And I think once we had some gigs going, there were other people that thought, yes, there's money to be made in this industry, let's take this further afield. And then other promoters came along, and you had like, you know, some big promoters like Gert Chahal, who done some fantastic gigs, but you know, he maintained a lot of his gigs at the Dome. It was always under the name of Chahalco Promotions, and influenced a lot of bands to come and perform there. And that really kicked it off for Birmingham. And Birmingham bought a lot of bands, and then London started. Hira, LARP was always there in London, but really couldn't do a lot on its own. But is influenced by bands like DCS and Apna Sangeet.
Okay, the live scene in Birmingham in the 80s was very, very big. Nowadays it's all DJs.
ਅਸੀਂ ਗੋਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਨੱਚਣਾ ਸਿਖਾਉਣਾ ਨੀ ਦਿਲ ਪਰ ਜਾਣਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਲਾ ਛੱਡ ਡੋਮ ਦਾ ਤੂੰ ਖੜਾ ਐ ਜੱਲੀਏ ਨੀ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਪਾਉਣਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਲਾ ਛੱਡ ਡੋਮ ਦਾ ਤੂੰ ਖੜਾ ਐ ਜੱਲੀਏ ਨੀ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਪਾਉਣਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਲਾ ਦਿਲ ਪਰ ਜਾਣਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਲਾ ਤੂੰ ਲੱਕ ਨੂੰ ਹਿਲਾਉਣਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਲਾ ਨੀ ਦਿਲ ਪਰ ਜਾਣਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਲਾ ਤੂੰ ਲੱਕ ਨੂੰ ਹਿਲਾਉਣਾ ਸਿੱਖ ਲਾ
It is working out good. I mean, last couple of months we've been going to Melas and haven't seen no DJs there. It's been mainly live performances because that is what people enjoy. But you know, you move on with the times, and now the music mainly is a lot of remix. And what happens with remix, the bands are not going to perform that live, but you've got the good bands, you know, that are playing all the time, whether they're at small venues, weddings, or at concerts. But they're kicking it still, man.
Okay, the other thing we're talking about is basically the influences of like how Bhangra developed with regards to the images, with regards to the fashions, and what sort of things that do you remember in the 80s? What were the main things?
Oh God, I'll tell you one thing I do remember is everybody doing dance challenges, man. Everybody wanted to be the best looking guy, best dressed looking guy, you know, obviously for the birds, not for the money. And there was this one guy, man, he used to do the sword act, and he used to wave this sword around, jump over it, hop over it, middle of the dance floor. Nobody ever arrested him. I don't know why, he was a lunatic. We had this other guy called Cyril. People remember him. Black Bhangra dancer, man. He used to walk around with a t-shirt on. Black Bhangra dancer written on the back. And then we had some great guys, you know, who used to dance. Like, there's a guy called Billy. He's a footworker and stuff. Off the Bhangra scene, but these guys were kicking it in Birmingham. And they brought this, you know, influence from the States and all that, where people used to challenge breakdancing. And then he went into Bhangra and stuff. And, you know, that was one of the things that was happening with the youngsters.
What was a major show that you actually did that you can remember as being your major event?
Well, we've done loads of events and we've done loads since then. But back in 1988, we kicked it big time. We've done it Malkeet Singh launch. Malkeet played for the first time in Birmingham on stage. And it was at Hummingbird. We had over 3,000 people, went well over the capacity limits. You know, I think the capacity in there was about 2,500. We got in there about 3,300 people. Everybody loved it. We had a great time, and the police came and supported for us about 4 o'clock. But so what? We kicked it, man.
From what there is now, back in that day, the people, they're all married and stuff now, they've got children and stuff, they don't really want to be buying this Bhangra music, and nowadays it's people going to clubs and unis and stuff. They're into all this R&B, hip hop, and mixing everything together. So now it's like fusing all that together. But I've seen the music from the Bhangra scene change. We used to do with Bradesi. I remember they used to do a lot of Hindi music and maybe just do 1 or 2 Punjabi songs. But over the years, then you start seeing it completely change over to just doing Punjabi songs and maybe 1 or 2 Hindi songs. I've seen that side of it, and now people, obviously they're buying a lot of Hindi music and stuff, and people want to, even with the Bhangra scene now, people still want to, it's refreshing for them to hear like a Hindi tune mixed in with the Bhangra kind of music.
Okay, going back to the early years of when you started into music, the Bhangra music, obviously you're still fairly young. What sort of people there kind of influenced you?
Well, I was influenced by a lot of like English pop music, and people like freak out when they say that, well, hang on, you're buying singles and stuff like that every week. I did listen to, because like back in the day, like your parents always listened to Punjabi music. My dad used to always, like every week without fail, go and buy Punjabi records, Muhammad Sadiq and all, Galit Manik and all that lot. So you're always brought up with that stuff anyway. Then at the same time on the radio, you used to hear Hindi film songs played all the time. So it's just a mixture of them 3 things really. You know, like at that time, you know, like the Hindi film scene. But then at the same time, listen to the Punjabi music that your parents would bring home, which obviously was none of our choice, but you just you get to hear it.
Okay, I mean, what sort of did you actually go abroad with any of these bands and see what the impact was as a band? Yeah,
because Bradesi used to go over quite regularly. They used to represent British Bhangra music. That's what they used to represent, and they used to be mainly just like World Festival. I think that's what it was, World Festival music or something like that. And it was totally different. You're playing to a non-Asian crowd completely. And you just look and thinking, hang on a second, what are you listening to? You can't understand what we're saying, but for some reason they like the music and the beat. I mean, Bradesi was quite different in them days. They had all the guitar, bass, and all that lot, compared to like there was a couple of traditional bands and stuff. But nowadays, if you go abroad, because I'm still going abroad with bands now, now they don't want the English instruments at all. They just want to hear just like mainly just the dol, and dol and stuff like that, and they have to be the thing at the front. It's not even about the lead singer anymore. It's just about the musician, the one that's playing that dol.
I actually started producing music back in 95, 96. That's when I bought my musical equipment. All this year, I took a loan off my dad and stuff. I wasn't actually clued up in programming and stuff. All I had seen is with my eyes other producers working, like Frantic Cam, Partners in Rhyme. Back in the days, used to be Juggy. You know, used to play drums with DCS, used to be with them and stuff. I used to watch them program stuff, and that's where I've learned a lot of my stuff from. So, I mean, I bought my equipment in 95, 96, and it took me about a good few years before I released my first album, which was in the year 2000.
So how did you get your musical heritage or your influences?
My influences, I mean, it's a lot to do with what I listened to, the people I rolled with at the time. I mean, I was wagging school just to chill with Frantic Cam. You get me? So I mean, that says a lot in itself. You know, the man's talented beyond belief. I mean, that's the person I've learned everything off in terms of programming. Ideas are just in your head. It's what you listen to. Your influences, like, I mean, I was into rap at the time. I don't know if you listen to my first couple of my albums. I mean, I'm sampling Tupac and stuff, and I'm not supposed to sample anything. Do you know what I mean? That's how badly I'm into it. Do you know what I mean?
Did you used to go to the Daytimers?
A bit of a personal question. No, I did a few Daytimers. Do you know what I mean? In sense, like, I mean, it wasn't like I was a household name or anything, but I was DJing at a few Daytimers in London and stuff like that when I first started.
Well, personally, when you were younger, did you?
When I was younger, I mean, yeah, I did go to a few Daytimers, but to me, Daytimers were just nothing but a place for trouble. You know, and at that time it was confliction between Sikhs and Muslims, you know what I mean? And I used to wear a turban back in the day as well, so I mean, it was kind of hard. You know
so obviously with the turban you've got an image now you need to portray, and this image you're portraying, it's not just through your music, it's through yourself as well, through videos and everything, but back in the day, obviously people picked up the music as it came?
Yeah, well, back in the day it was just about the music. Really and truly, I don't think it was anything to do with image. I mean, when you're seeing people like Hira and them, like their dress, you know, their dress codes. I mean, not dissing their dress codes, I mean, but that was in at that time. So therefore, it wasn't too much about image or if a person can sing on stage and move or whatever. At the moment, the way it's all changed. It's more about, you know, I'd say it's 50% your image and 50% your music, and both of them have got to be 100%, if you know what I mean.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So that's where I see it going now. I mean, it's all like, it's all manufactured stuff. You know, when you see the pop music and stuff, it's all people that can look good and dance good, and that can have that got a bit of singing knowledge. It ain't like, yo, you're the best singer in the world and we're putting you on stage. It's not like, yo, we're putting you on stage because you tell it's the way you look, and it's a bit about what you can do, and it's a bit about, you know, how the crowd take off to you and
So
stuff.
looking at, you started like 95, but did you were you aware of like the explosion in the 80s of Bhangra music?
Oh yeah. I mean that's where it all started for myself. I mean, when I was about what, 6, 7. Do you know, I just barely started supporting a football team. Do you know, and you know, on the way to the Gurdwara and stuff, that's all we ever listened to. Bhangra. I mean, it's sad to say, but I mean, with my uncles and stuff, because they were young as well, and we was youths, and my dad made sure we went to Punjabi class every Sundays and Saturdays and stuff. I mean, those were the times when we used to spend a bit of time with our uncles and actually listen to, you know, your Larps and Hiras and, you know, your Red Rose even. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. So what did you try to get any? Have you had any influence from them kind of bands in your music? Or
yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the direction I'm going towards. I mean, I don't know if you notice. I mean, there was a phase just not so long ago where people actually started sampling loads, and it was just about taking that and just putting it together. I mean, where is the art in that? Do you get me? I mean, some of them work, some of them don't. But I mean, the direction I'm going is exactly the direction they've not started. Maybe with the image factor involved as well. My music is more musical, but with that DJ feel. I mean, if you listen back to your LARP and stuff, they had violins and stuff playing. You know, it was proper instruments played. It weren't samples and stuff. The only thing that I'm having to put down to give it that little boost is the actual frequencies I'm using on drum kits and stuff like that. So it does sound like a hip hop drum loop and stuff, you know. So, you know, the general public does, you know.
Is it hard trying to create live music as a DJ or producer?
It is and it isn't, to tell you the truth. Sometimes, I mean, I could be sitting here. I've been, I mean, in this very room, I've come back from a gig and I've done a song and it's taken me 2 hours, and the amount of hoo-ha has been made over it. It's a tune that's just coming out soon, very soon. It's a girl band called Rouge and stuff. I mean, that tune was done in about 2 hours over here, sitting here, and I've done it to a Lauryn Hill a cappella. I just built the music around to a Lauryn Hill a cappella, and all it took was 3 girls to come along, write their own song to it, and you got a new song. The music's original, the lyrics are original, and we're sitting on something that's, you know, people are actually feeling the vibe off.
I mean, nowadays, obviously, in the early days, there wasn't much media, but nowadays the media's all over the place. Do you find, obviously, you're quite a top artist now, do you find it easy to just get a track on the radio or get your face in the paper?
Yeah, it is easy and it's harder. It's harder because the amount of people out there that's doing it, that just jumped on the bandwagon and think that, yeah, they can pull it off, and it's easy as well. It's easy as well because, I mean, the fact that then people are around doing music and it's not up to standard and whatever, it doesn't take much for you to put something together that sounds half decent to your ears but sounds bad to others. You get me? Yo, this is Zeus, and you want to keep in check with your culture. Peace.
मामला है, दिल दा मामला है, पूछते करो सजन, तौबा खुदा दे वास्ते, पूछते करो सजन, दिल दा मामला है, दिल दा मामला है। नाजुक जा दिल है मेरा, कल की दिल होया तेरा।